have to mute this.
Got it.
Okay. Don't say anything for about a minute. I'll give you guys a thumbs up. Mute this. All right, we're good.
So I'm just looking at the numbers. We got 774 backers currently. The first Never Going Home had 786 backers. So
Ooh,
come on, 13 more people.
come on, 13 more people over the next 87 minutes.
That'd be amazing. No, oh, it went up already.
It went up
by
already.
one while I'm watching. Thank you to the 775th backer.
All right, I'm gonna go drop this in a quick update in the comment section as well, just to let people know that we're doing that we're live streaming.
Going live to the Discord. Let's see.
All right. There's the link.
Guess I need to get the link from somewhere.
All right, excellent.
Oh, that's the Zoom link. Where's the
Wait, did I just put the Zoom link in the chat?
No, I was about to, and then I was like, no, don't do that.
I was like, I hope I didn't do that. Oh man, that would be exactly the kind of day this is. But it's okay. Woosah.
You seem to have put a YouTube link, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in. Well, I'm going to share it to Discord.
We are streaming right now, so
can you put it to the base camp?
What was that?
You put it to the base camp so I can
I'll
grab
do
it?
that next, Matt.
I go.
I already have it up. Oop. There we go. And then, yeah. All right. Well, we have Brandon Ayton here from Wet Ink Games, business director here. We're here for our campaign wrap up. We got a couple of our couple other people here. We have Matt Benici, we have Matt Orr, our creative director and other owner of Wet Ink Games, and Sarah Ayton here, our fiction writer, and you know, I just got to give her a gold star for just coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas. So we should have a couple others who may be coming in and out.
Star for you.
I know Stephen Wu said he was going to show up, and he's always a joy to have on these streams. Yeah. So, man, right now, as you know, Matt, as you said, we had we're just 12 away from matching what our the backer count from our very first Never Going Home Kickstarter, which our first Never Going Home Kickstarter was a wild ride in and of itself. That is an understatement, because it was our first. It wasn't our first Kickstarter. It was our third Kickstarter. But that project, it started out to just make one book, just to make Never Going Home. And through the stretch goals and stuff that we had, we were like, oh yeah, you know, we'll wrap these up into another book or whatever. And things ended up going absolutely bonkers. One of the things that we had taken away from the lesson of our third Kickstarter was we want to make sure that the things that we put out there don't delay publication. So we have a lot of our stretch goals here. Actually, all of our stretch goals here are digital releases that aren't going to delay the printing and delivery of the book. And that's, I think, lesson learned, pat on the back, right? Fail forward, right?
I mean,
you just say fail forward?
Fail
He
forward.
did. He's got all this business speak he uses.
I
He's a
know.
business manager. He's
know.
full of business.
He is full of
He's
business.
full of business.
He is full of something.
That's true. I want to make sure that I can get a shot of this for when we send this to Doug, to Doug Shooter Victory Condition Games. He gave us these lovely pint glasses at Granite State Comic-Con last year, and I said, I'm going to make sure I drink my beer out of Doug's glass today.
Oh,
So
do the
hey, thanks,
same
Doug.
thing.
Oh, look.
It's got a beefy cow on it, and it says, "Do you even RPG, bruh?"
cows are beefy.
oh my goodness.
I was joking with a coworker the other day, how in the 50s and 60s, the businessmen could have a bottle of desk whiskey, for a long day or to celebrate. And I was like, you know what? Every whiskey is desk whiskey if you want it bad enough.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. When I was working at Cone's Fashion Optical for 15 years, I had desk tequila.
Nice.
Love it. So, as we're going through, I know we have a few people who are already watching and here. If anyone who comes in wants to chime in and ask any questions of us as we go forward, any of the things related to Never Going Home, any other projects that we may have or maybe doing. I know we shared some sneak peeks. If you have questions about any of those projects that we've shared in our updates, feel free to ask those questions. But as of right now, I just kind of want to kick it off and just ask you all, like, how do you think how the campaign has gone and what you're most excited about, I guess. Anyone can go.
I'm just looking to get it in my grubby hands so I can start working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming. I gotta get. I was literally working on it earlier today, and yeah, it's there's not very much left to do on the 1914 manuscript. I know I said it would be further along than it has, but you gotta get everything just right. Earlier today, when I was working on it, there was like a mention of something in like mission 6 of the 1914 book, and I was like, does that come up in any of the other missions? And if it doesn't, it should. So I should go insert that in there in those other missions so that like it comes to this culmination in mission 6.
Yeah.
So every time you look at it, you find it, I mean, I don't know. This is the way I work, right? The first time you read it, you're like, oh, it's got these problems, like this section is missing, and it's got these other problems, like this isn't properly formatted to like the established, what we've established as the norm for the formatting, right? And so you fix those things, and then you read it again, and you're like, oh, now I can see that there's like plot mismatches, that like this character name doesn't perfectly match with this character name. And then you fix those things, and you look at it and you're like, today I'm like, oh, there's this one line that would be better and stronger if it was the 4th time you had read that, and so like stick it in, find the place to stick it in. So we keep making it better, we keep working on it. That's how it goes.
Yeah, well, we got a comment from Mike Coker, who actually is
hey Mike.
Yeah, Mike is one of our writers. He's an excellent guy. He's run games for us at conventions, and he's just all around great guy. And we have a comment from Shadow Rex said, I think the campaign did amazing, and I only found you because my friend told me about y'all. Yeah, so this is absolutely
Well, you got to tell your friends.
great. Yeah, we regularly say, spread the word, tell your friends, and a lot of the the growth of our individual campaigns comes from that word of mouth. We advertise on Facebook and Instagram. Whoop. We advertise on Instagram and Facebook, and we do some other stuff through our actual plays and stuff, but a lot of it is just straight up word of mouth. Hey, I played this cool game, or hey, I saw this and I thought of you, because you talk about your hobby or your interests. So yeah, I guess from that perspective, I guess what's the coolest way? Because I know, Matt, you talk to people a lot at conventions about the game, and you talk about a lot of people on Discord about the game and how they got into it. Do you happen to have like an interesting story, or what's your most interesting way that someone like stumbled into Never Going Home?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think mostly people find it. I've got a story that comes to mind, but it's not exactly an answer to your question, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I think most people find it the way that you're like, oh, I saw it in a game shop, or I saw it in the Gen Con book, or I walked past and saw the sign, or my friend told me about it. It's like pretty normal ways that you find the games.
For
I
me,
think
it was finding it on the indie tables at conventions. Like the cover artwork just pulled me into it.
Sure. That's what I mean by like people walking by in the booth and they stop and they see it, But as far as like the most interesting person who sort of stumbled into it, I remember this is in 2019 when it was new. I was at Gen Con and I was talking my wares and selling the books, and you get like people that don't know what a role-playing game is, and they're like, oh, is this a comic book? And it's like, no, it's a role-playing game. And they're like, oh, it's a game. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's like there's fiction in it, and there's stories, and you play your characters, and it tells you there's monsters to fight. And this person was like, oh, well, I don't do that. I don't know any of that stuff, but it looks really cool. And you say there's stories in it. And I'm like, yeah, there's all these letters, and it goes through, Sarah O'Regan wrote them all. And it's like this coherent story about one of the soldiers, and you can follow his letters and his journals. And she's like, oh, I want to read that. I'm going to buy it. So like somebody out there bought a copy of Never Going Home just to read the fiction because they thought it was great. They liked the concept. They weren't going to, and you know what? I don't have any follow-ups, but I'd like to think that person tried it, at least tried it,
Yeah, I have heard that the fiction is the best part of the whole game. I've heard it from a couple of people. So.
You're not biased or anything.
Not at all. Not at all.
It is pretty good. It is pretty good.
So we actually have multiple comments. I know Midnight Blue is one of our regular backers, and has supported Never Going Home for quite some time, and always is like, yes, we unlocked a fiction goal. He's super on board.
Yeah, I get to write a lot of fiction for this series, which is pretty exciting because I did fiction for the books, all the little artifacts and things that I normally do, but then I'm writing some real stories this time too, which is nice. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really neat. And I know Sarah and I had chatted at one point, because we know some legitimate voice actors, and we just keep meeting more whenever we go to conventions and stuff. But I think it would be really cool to actually have maybe some of those letters, get audio files of those letters, and we can compile those, and so people can use them either in their game, or if they have set pieces, it'd be really, really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I heard yesterday that at Origins, one of the games that is going to be playing, I think it's one of the missions out of Tears in the Sea, is they actually have an isolated dark room, because it's going to be submarine stuff. And I was like, love it. They're gonna have like red lights and stuff in there. It's like
Mm,
I'm excited
That's awesome.
to see that. Hey, Stephen Wu, what's going on, man? Oh, you're on mute, bud. It's an audio
Hello,
meeting.
friends. Hello, friends.
How you doing?
Good, good. I just wanted to mute because there were some curious children in the background. So,
Oh, it's okay. There've been curious children in the background this whole time. Here's one right now.
Hi. Hello.
And we got Mike Coker here as well. This is great. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Guys, how are you?
Good, good.
Good, buddy. Thanks
Excellent.
for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. We got another comment from Shadow Rex said they're getting the all-in retail pledge, so they can have they and their friends can dive in and play this, which I think is awesome. We had a lot of people who picked up the all-in pledges because they just want all of it. They want everything that we have, and even some of the stuff which we're not offering on the actual Kickstarter, like our GM screens, might be in the backer kit. We got to coordinate that with our fulfillment partner, but if not, we'll find maybe a way to do that. Hey, so Mike and Steven, I know you all were diving into this project. I think, Mike, this is your first Never Going Home writing experience, right?
Yeah, been a player. I think I
How's it
ran
been?
across the game in Sin City Con. I think I got a book from you and fell in love with the system
Yep.
and the setting, and have been running it through various cons. But yeah, my first time to contribute, and what an honor that is, man, to actually contribute something to my favorite game.
Favorite game. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely, hands down. I've got
Yeah.
a print I got of the book cover that I'm waiting for the perfect frame for, so I can put it up in my office. So absolutely.
Oh, so again, Shadow Rex had posted that played a lot of games, but they never played a tabletop role-playing game. So this is going to be their first experience with it. That I'll take it. We have a lot of actual play material out there. I think Matt and I both ran actual plays during the length of this campaign that you can find and see how things are run. I think we have one out there that our friend John Thompson, which is actually he played in that. Matt ran that one. I think that was our first actual play, and that is also linked on our on the actual Kickstarter page. So hey, go check it out. See how it runs, and have fun with it. Dive into it. Man. So Stephen, you were one of the core writers in this go around.
Yeah,
How did that go for you?
that was fun. That was really fun. Gave me an excuse to look a little deeper into this period in history, and then put some of my silly ideas out there. I think we were trying to do some really interesting things, and then the other writers kind of took the seeds and turned them into beautiful blossoms. So beautiful, terrifying blossoms.
Yeah.
Beautiful, terrifying blossoms.
Yeah, I think I think you weren't on the call yet. I was saying I was trying to get at least one of the 3 books totally done before today, but I didn't quite make it. But the 1914 is the one I was working on. So it was like
Nice.
I was just like adjusting, like like the character, there's an NPC that's really important to the story and he's mentioned, and then it's like, oh, but like maybe there's like a countdown clock or something that like gets to that final confrontation, and so like you can sort of build your, because it's already in there, or you could like reduce the difficulty of that role because you know this
Yeah.
guy. But then it's like,
Yeah.
but we should do that in all the missions, and then there's like you can like toggle through the missions, like, oh, did we make friends with him or not? And then each time reduces the thing, and so the final confrontation is easier if you've been friendly with him the whole time. Or
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know. It's a final idea. This is like literally the last hour of the campaign, and I'm like, oh, we still have to make changes. It could still be better. That's, I was saying that before. That's the second time the watchers have heard me say it, but I'm going to say it to you, Steve, because it's like, we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. I would have sent you a file.
Let's keep doing this. Make it the best we can.
That's right. Exactly.
So guys,
exactly.
kind of curious with the addition of the 3 books, have we hit every major period of the war? We've covered 1914 to 1918.
That's the goal of this thing. Yeah, we've got one for every, there will be a dossier for every year, and obviously not every theater, but like, so the 1914 leading up to the assassination of Ferdinand, or Franz Ferdinand, spoilers for World War One.
If you haven't heard,
1915 at Gallipoli, 1916 on the collapsing Eastern Front, ending up in a battle in the Russian home front, sort of. 1917 is the North Sea, submarine warfare, and then the 1918 will be actually the final up from. I think the first mission takes place in March or April as the Americans arrive, and then through the next 6 months as they push. I mean, there were Americans there earlier, but like the major ship arrivals or troop arrivals started to come in spring of 1918. So, those are the 5 fronts, the 5 time periods. But obviously there's, what about France in 1914, or what about Russia in 1915, or what about Russia what about Eastern Asia in 1916? Like, we haven't done everything, but we've done at least one story from each year.
Yeah.
Yes and no is the answer to your question, I think.
One thing that I thought was awesome that we have all kinds of stretch goal writers this go around writing both missions as well as mystic secrets. And so mystic secrets are more weird things that you can do with magic or whispers, or some optional magic rules that you can throw in, and like if you want to augment your game in a different way. And we had some fiction, but one of the things that happened the first time around was people would just pitch a mission idea, and we were like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And some people were bringing like really fun ideas to bear, and all of that got wrapped up into either put some of those into each of the books that you'll see, or that came out in the core release, but also Once More Unto the Breach collected a number of those missions as well. So with these, we have a whole bunch of opportunity to either explore either new theaters, or to dive deeper into something that we've covered a little bit, or hey, what's happening in France. We had someone who Jess Geyer said she had named her favorite cryptid, and she was like, yep, it's in France. That's what I'm going to dive into it. And I was like, cool. And so Matt had compiled a list of every one of our adventures or missions to date, to kind of give to all of the writers and say, here you go. Here's what's been covered already there. And, so there's either no duplication, or if it, scratched an itch or sparked some interest.
Right. If you're looking to do something that hasn't been done before, you have that list. If you want to cover a similar thing in a different way, that's also already been done. So
Are any of the missions like taking place in Africa? Because
we have one
just
currently.
one. Yeah. It's like one thing that I really wish we could explore more.
Mhm.
It's like one of the pieces that was like missing, but I I think
What?
as a player, there's enough. Well, if you're running a campaign, I think there's enough resources to do something really cool in Africa. But yeah, it's like
Mhm.
not a. You're talking about not all theaters are represented. Because we didn't do anything with like northern Belgium, like in the whole race to the sea that happened, at the very beginning of the war, and like
Right, like at Dunkirk and all that.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been like really cool to bring in too. But like, it's part of the problem of like loving history so much is that you're just like, oh, but this cool piece didn't make it in, and it's like, well, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of stuff, as I was saying in answering to Mike's question, like there's a lot of pieces, individual pieces that have not been covered.
Mhm.
The Africa campaign between colonial Britain and colonial Germany were next to each other, and so they
Yeah.
fought a war, and with their allies. And so you had like this Maasai tribe is allied to the Germans, and this Maasai tribe is allied to the British, and so they're fighting each other for a war that's happening very far away from them, which is just one of those weird things. So like, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff somebody did in the first in Once More Into the Breach. There is a mission that's set in that milieu, trying to get to Lake Tanganyika, and the gunboats that are on the lake are part of the story there.
Yeah.
And some other weird stuff happens, of course, because it's never going home. But there's a lot more to that campaign. I know the other one that comes up, we've got another buddy who is another first-time contributor to Never Going Home, done a lot of been a presence, a fan of the game since before it was a real product. He wants to do Pershing in Mexico, because General Pershing was in Mexico fighting Pancho Villa before he went to Europe. So it's like, let's do some creepy Pancho Villa stuff. Why not? Like there are so many places anywhere you turn your eye, right? You can find something from that era to zhuzh up and to put the supernatural with it, and make it into something interesting. So
Yeah.
I mean, with all these other stretch goals that we've unlocked throughout this campaign, I'm sure some of those things will be covered. And from my point of view, there's no reason why we can't just keep making adventures indefinitely,
Hey, yeah.
so even if we've completed like our project of having like a source book for each year,
Mhm.
One standalone adventure covering this thing,
Mhm.
can exist as long as there's interest.
Yeah.
So we there's a couple other
Says the creative
comments.
director. Here comes the business director with the bad news.
No.
No.
No bad
No.
news here.
Like, yeah, let's take our flagship line. It's just, no, I do want to point out, we do have some extra comments. We have some congratulatory words from Mike Lehman.
Oh yeah.
Been a wild ride.
Hello, Mike.
And he was thrilled to see some all the digital extras that we offered. We also have, and I'm gonna tweak Graham's question. I will read his question out, and then
Look, I got a whole spreadsheet to answer Graham's questions. You want to take one, you can take it. And
well, his question was, what were the major historical sources the team used? Which I'm gonna stop the question there, because I know Mike and Steven and Sarah and Matt, there's historical reference all over the place. However, his specific question was what the sources the team used to support the idea that Kaiser was canonically a macaw.
Yeah.
So he was not a macaw, Graham. Sorry, canonically it's not there. That's a different game.
Yeah, that's a different game. That's what I
a
was gonna
different
say.
game. If you want to
I
see
don't
that,
think he's a macaw in that game either, though.
yeah, he's not a macaw in that game either. But hey, Wild Skies is our anthropomorphic diesel punk game. And the Skies over Western Europe is a lot of fun.
So we can talk about sources, and then I do actually have some parrot talk, because Graham has been hitting me up with parrot questions for like 2 weeks. So I do have some parrot talk that we'll get to at some point in this stream. But we can talk about sources first, because I mean, I'm talking, so I guess I'll keep the mic and say quickly that for me, I like to pick like a primary touchstone, because there's so many sources, and it's impossible to know everything anyway. So for me, I'm like, my book for 1914 is The Sleepwalkers, and it's over there on my shelf. I can't see the author's name off the top. I don't remember the author's name, and I can't see it. It's over there, but it's called The Sleepwalkers. It's about all of the machinations of how 1914 happened and all of the different sort of things. And so, like, if I had a question about 1914, I'm like, that's the book I've chosen to be my source, and that's the one I go to. Obviously, I've looked at stuff on the internet, and I have a general knowledge from several other books, but like that was my touchstone for the 1914 stuff. And then for 1918, I used a book called The Hello Girls, and that is by I believe it's Elizabeth Cobb, and it's about the women telephone operators recruited by the U.S. Army to go to France and be telephone operators because they were better at it than they were already better at operating telephones than they could train soldiers to become telephone operators. So they were sent and they went. And so again, like in just telling that story, Cobb has to talk about other stuff. So that's the touchstone that I used for my work on anything that I did with the 1918 book. So those are my two books for this thing. And we got three of the writers on the call, so
Yeah, I read a couple of different books that were only really about 1913 and 1914. I didn't really use a whole lot of sources for 1918 this time around, which will make more sense why when people read the fiction. But I read a book called The Trigger, which was actually a journalist who was reporting from Sarajevo, like in the 90s. And he had been like kind of in that area, and he'd met like a lot of people, and was just really interested in some of the things that he saw in the 90s that he thought were really similar to things that were going on in like the 19 teens. And for him, like living through that conflict, really like kind of put him in this investigative state about like, how is, all of this is still kind of going on here in the Balkans. Like it started in the Balkans 100 years ago. We haven't really quite finished it yet. And so he wrote a book where he really like tracked down a lot about Gavrilo Princip and like descendants of like, like his family, and like went to the place where he was born. Right. Yeah. Went to the place where he was born, and like went to the place where he went to school, and like just visited all these places. And so it was like history about the time, but then also it was like a memoir of his time living through this war in the 90s and being a reporter. But then also he's writing it like 20 years after the fact. And so it was like this, it was a whole lot of stuff, all in there together. Great. Yeah. It was a really fascinating book. And then the other book that I read was called 1913. And that was a book that really focused on trying to uncover like what the world was like before the war broke out. And so I read that one, and that one was also really good too. It was it kind of like looked at each continent and then took you through like what was happening and what the culture and life was like in each like really important city on those continents, and so they had like the cities of Europe, they had like London, Paris, like Berlin, like those sorts of things that you would expect. But then, we went down to, we went across the pond, as they say, right? And it was talking about like New York and Quebec and Montreal and San Francisco, and then South America, what was going on in like Peru and Brazil, and places like this, and then over in Asia. And so like just trying to take like a snapshot of like what it was like in 1913, and then really only focusing on like stuff right before war broke out. And so I used that a lot just to kind of describe like how people might have thought and what they might have thought was important right at the start of when all this conflict is going on,
And Stephen, I know that you were able to dive in a little bit deeper into some of the stuff in the around this period. Were there any either any books or any specific things that you were like, oh no, I really found this interesting, or how did you approach it?
Yeah, so what I like to do before I do any research on anything is look at the Wikipedia article and scroll down to the sources. and just click
Mhm.
everything on the sources and have like 50 tabs open of all the sources that they cite. Somehow I ended up on a like translated version of a Serbian like I I almost want to say it might be like alternate history, because obviously they look at these characters very differently.
Mhm.
And so reading through, and then I was like, oh well, these guys sound like they were historical villains and posthumously recognized as national heroes, and that sort of gave me that initial germ of an idea to go in that direction. Um, there's actually it's really interesting. I mentioned before to Matt when we spoke that I like to visit national museums to see what people think of themselves, and I think it's really cool with Wikipedia. Because everyone can edit, it's often cool to find little sentences that say like controversially regarded as, and then go to the source there, and then click on the source and click their sources. So I think my approach is much less intellectual, but it works for me, and it turns into hours of learning about stuff that may or may not be useful to whatever I'm writing.
Hey, I'm all for learning stuff that may or may not be useful, so
Yeah,
as long as you're having fun, right?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you absolutely have to learn like whatever, like what's on the page is like 12% of what you had to learn to
Mhm.
decide that was the 12% that had to go on the page, So
Mhm.
yeah, you absolutely have to learn a whole bunch. Mike, do you have a sources question you wanna throw in there?
Sources question?
Yeah, like
Not
no,
sure.
an answer. I mean, an
Yeah.
answer, not a
Oh,
question. You want to answer the
well,
sources question since we're all
I put
Speaking
it.
of museums over here,
yeah. Speaking of museums,
Yeah. So, Sarah, I just picked this up. I don't know if you can see this.
oh,
oh,
I'll have to
I
take the
saw
blur
the
off.
outline of Africa on there. So
Yeah. So I just purchased this. It's World War One, the African Front.
Oh
A
yeah.
whole book. Yeah. So I'm getting ready to dive into this, and so can't wait to see what I learned, because it's something I known virtually nothing about, just
Uh-huh.
very surface. So that's a source I hope to draw upon. But I really love, like, one of my favorite books is Goodbye to All That by Robert Graves. Of course, Storm of Steel is a fantastic account. All Quiet in the Western Front, man, it's a classic for good reason. It's fantastic. I'm listening to it again in Audible right now, and it's just incredible. And so I tend to look at the soldiers and the diaries, the written accounts. I like Sarah's contribution so much because it kind of brings those voices back to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
we
I
had a
didn't really know about anything in Africa either, but I read a book of fiction recently before the campaign launched called The Ice Cream War, and it's about Germans and British like fighting it out on the African continent, like in their colonies during 1914, 1915, and I forget why they called that particular conflict the Ice Cream War, but there was some reason why. But yeah, it's not pretty stuff. I mean, like much like most of it is not pretty stuff,
we,
but
we
really,
actually have
yeah.
we have a conversation going in the chat about some sources. Actually, Angel had asked, have you all completed or compiled an online list of inspirations for the game? Books or actual historical records, other media. And someone was asking, do we ever watch any documentaries? Mentioned the They Shall Not Grow Old, which is one that we mentioned before, which is absolutely phenomenal if you haven't seen it.
I've
There,
listened to all of Dan Carlin's Blueprint for Armageddon,
Yep.
which is a 6-part podcast about the war.
and we should
Yeah.
definitely collect, and I know we have a some of those historical things, that list of historical references, I think, in the core book, I
yeah,
believe
so I
those
was
references.
looking for the page.
Yeah, it's in the
number right
core
now.
book, but I think we can definitely compile an ongoing list, or a larger list. Midnight Blue, who again we were talking about earlier, fan of the fiction, had mentioned Eye Deep in Hell. It's a nonfiction book on World War One. the movie 1917, the recent adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front, which I think just came out this year and was nominated for multiple Academy Awards. And so
we have a small bibliography in the middle of the book in page 67 of the core book.
of the core, yeah.
And obviously that only represents the stuff that was used in the core book. Obviously we have not put together bibliographies for the other books. But yeah, we should maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've definitely hit that. We're 48 minutes to go, by the way. I'm just going over there to check. We're at 65, 558. It is, it's possible that we could make some more movement over the next 45 minutes or so, which would be great. Great
Yeah.
to see.
I've got to see the solo rules. I really got to see this. One of the
Well,
great
so
things
those,
about the books is like the extra, little tidbits of rules and whispers paths that you can work with. And when I saw the solo rules pop up, I was like, we've got to hit that goal.
So it's funny because the solo rules, like, I've gone through and play again. This is a game that, when you look at it at its core, has a narrator, has stuff for squad based stuff. But I've gone through various missions personally, and gone through and played, like, even though, like, yeah, you read it and you're like, okay, as a narrator, this is how it should go. But as someone who's playing 2 or 3 characters that wouldn't have that information, do I do that without metagaming? I go through here and do it. So, like, it can be played, especially when you're using the deck as the random adding that randomized element. However, with these solo rules that we're talking about, Atwas, who is one of our GMs, narrators on our Discord, and does stuff through their own web series. They love solo games, and I asked, like, hey, would you want to go through and potentially use the +1 core and the mission structure that we have and formalize some solo rules. And if we make that solo rule goal, not only will that allow that to kind of develop a little bit more, but it could potentially expedite that scenario. Because right now it's like it's pie in the sky stuff, and Atwas is saying, like, yeah, I want to take a stab at it. Let's do it, and see where it goes. We know enough game designers that we can, speaking of game designers, Matt Benici, who's right, actually, for me, he's right there, but I don't know where he is on the YouTube. But also one of the game designers who does stuff with us from a board game and card game development. Anyway, so yeah, solo rules would be awesome. I would love to see us crush through there. We are at 777 backers now.
Yep. I know you mentioned Mike Liam earlier. There's definitely been some brainstorming happening on our Discord about, like, what solo rules could entail. So there's lots of options to make them happen. And all right. I'm gonna take over for the next few minutes. I'm gonna do this parrot talk.
Oh,
real quick.
geez.
All right. So Graham Gens, this is your fault. Okay. So how many parrots are there? Parrots are properly known as the Ptaciformes. There are 393 identified species. If I had to choose between parakeets and cockatiels, I would choose cockatiels. No offense to parakeets, just, it's personal preference, right? All right.
Yep.
So these other ones I legitimately did look up these answers, right? So the most talkingest parrot ever, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, is an American parrot named Puck, who sadly died in 1994, but knew 1,728 words.
Wow.
Right, exactly. Wow.
I don't even know if I know 1,000 words.
728
gosh.
words.
Oh man.
Graham also wanted to know how many parrots used to be in the United States. So I took this in a like historical, like species, like a extinct species kind of thing.
I'm just gonna
Uh,
can I take a time out? I will say we did open this up on our all of our channels and said, yeah, come ask about whatever you want. So Graham, thank you.
Graham is a master of the gentle troll, and I'm feeding I perhaps failing my to feed the troll, but here I am, failing by feeding the troll. I mean, okay, so native to the United States is sort of like hard to determine, but it looks like obviously there used to be species that are now definitely extinct, like the Carolina parakeet is like fossilized remains found, does not exist currently. The thick-billed parrot is a parrot that lives in like the Southwest, but does not, it is extinct in the US now, but it still exists in Mexico. So it's not an extinct species, it just is extinct in the US.
I'm still here for the parrot talk. I'm just gonna turn off my camera because I'm getting a snack, but I'm taking my phone with me because I'm still here for the parrots.
I'm
Great,
still
thank
here
you.
for the
So there are also two species of parrot that's the green parakeet and the red-crowned Amazon, and they both are like, they're like in the Rio Grande Valley. So like they're in Mexico, they're sometimes in the United States. Like, are they cross the border, right? Because they do what they want, they're parrots. So are they native to the United States just because the United States happens to be in their range? Yeah, I guess, but it's like I said, it's all nebulous, these things.
They look really similar to the thick-billed parakeet, in case anyone wants to know. They're both
Yeah.
green birds with red feathers on their head, but the
Yeah.
thick-billed black beak and the red-crowned Amazon has a yellow beak. That's how
There you
tell
go. There you go. All right. So then Graham also asked a bunch of questions about that all basically seem to be inviting me to talk about the cockapoo or the night parrot or the owl parrot, which is a New Zealand parrot. It is the only flightless parrot. And it's a good sized bird, like 25 inches tall, which is, I don't know, 40 centimeters for our non-US listeners, ish. Yeah, it lives. And so I looked up, and it has some strange behaviors which make it pretty unusual, like the whole like ground birds, because there are no native mammals to New Zealand, so like birds just live on the ground. Why not? Nothing's
Wait.
gonna eat them.
There's no native mammals in New Zealand?
I don't think so. I think that's why they have like birds and like lizards and stuff. Like they don't. I mean, there's mammals there now, obviously, but like cats and rats and stuff like that.
No, there's not any marsupials.
I don't think
Like
so.
Aren't wombats from New Zealand?
No, those are Australian.
Oh my gosh, this is
I think there's no mammals in New Zealand. I think that's like one of the things about New Zealand. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but in any case,
I'm looking this up too.
Yeah, look that up. Live fact checking.
I know, right?
All right, so the cockapoo is known for its booming calls. It practices a breeding strategy called lekking, which is basically the males come together and they compete with each other with their booming calls, and then the females choose which one they want to mate with, and then they go back to their respective places where they live, right? They only gather together for the mating process, right? And the males are the ones who travel to the places where these gatherings occur. So the males are usually spread out in population, but then they come together to breed, that's called lekking. It's a thing they do. It's atypical of most animals. And this has led to the females, they can change the sex ratio of their chicks by like, depending on whether or not food is plentiful. So like, because of this, like the females all kind of tend to stay in groups. So if there's a lot of well-fed um, if they're well fed, then they have males who will then fly away because there's enough food. But if they don't have enough food, then they do more females per the clutch, right? That so that they or maybe it's the other way around. Anyway, what it has resulted in is that trying to breed these birds, which are incredibly endangered, is difficult because you give them enough food that they're producing the wrong. They're not producing enough breeding females in captivity because they're quote unquote too well fed, based on their native normal species reactions. The cockapoo only lives on 3 islands currently, and endangered incredibly. So, and the last question, Graham didn't ask this, but I'm going to throw it in. If you were playing Wild Skies and you wanted to be a parrot, which animal type should you choose? And the answer is the game bird, because the game bird can choose from things like it's got plumage, it's got claws, it's got the nice big fat strut. It can fly, obviously, and chew is in there for a game bird, and that's like a bite ability of it to gnaw through things. So similar to a parrot, even though parrot is not among the list of like things that are under game bird. If you wanted to play a game bird in Wild Skies, you should choose, or if you wanted to play a parrot, you should choose game bird. All right. That's all the parrot talk I have. Sarah, do you have fact checking my statement about?
Yeah, so apparently, I mean, there are mammals that live there now because people brought them to the island.
Yeah,
but
obviously.
there are the only native mammal
They're wild
species
invasive.
to New Zealand is bats.
Oh, bats. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Bats.
right.
Okay.
Yes. But now the island is full of all sorts of
Oh yeah, rats and stoats and
cats
cats and
possums and
humans and-
cats, rats and things. And apparently New Zealand has a plan to eliminate these creatures by 2050 to bring back their native Kiwi fauna, because they are killing off birds and insects that are native to the island at alarming rates.
and have been since
Yes.
probably
Talked
about
about that on-
1750.
Mhm.
I think
Right.
it was Science
Yeah,
Friday.
that is wild. That is
Matthew
So,
and Sarah.
I'm going to bring it away from parrots.
Oh, wait, Mike's got
back
a
to
hang on.
yeah,
One
parrot talk is
quick
over.
bird
That's all
question.
Graham gets.
yes. Graham, I will
So
never
if I
forgive
wanted
you.
to know about World War I carrier pigeons, sounds like Matthew and Sarah would be the people to ask about.
Mhm. Yeah.
What was the carrier pigeon who actually got a medal that was like
Oh.
shot 3 times?
Oh.
I don't know. This is you want me
I
to
have
go
heard of
find this
Valorant?
answer, or you know this
Yeah.
answer?
No, I just wonder if you remember off the top of your head. I was saying we need to stat that pigeon for one of the books.
Wasn't
All
that
right.
pigeon
So-
called Valorant?
That sounds right. Yeah. It was a British, was it one of
Making
the
a
ones
note.
kept in the tank? I don't
Oh.
recall, but yeah, they actually awarded a medal, and I think there's a children's book.
Oh, I'm
about
sure
this
there's a
whole
children's book.
pigeon.
So,
His name was Sher Ami. He was a male homing pigeon who had been donated by the British, by the pigeon fanciers of Britain for use by the U.S. Army Signal Corps in France during World War One.
Matthew, if you, or Brandon, you need another stretch goal. I'll stat that pigeon for you.
Hey, I mean, like I said, there's no end to the vignettes. Like we've done
Apparently,
the big campaign books, but like this mission is all about you're gonna Saving Private Ryan, share me to
That's right.
bring back the hero bird. Like
That's
bring back the
right.
hero bird.
Apparently his taxidermied and stuffed body is on display at the Smithsonian Institution, so you can go visit him.
Well, there you go.
Look at his little birdie body.
Well,
Look at
there
his
you go.
birdie body.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So right now we have about 34 minutes to go. When we get a little closer, we'll do our countdown and stuff. We'll share the
Yeah,
screen.
we're not gonna count down for 35 minutes.
But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was again some of our upcoming stuff that we have. We had 4 sneak peeks through the campaign. Excuse me again, of our first board game, our first card game coming from Wedding Games, And then we have two upcoming role-playing games that were previewed a little bit. The first one that we shared was 0 Day War. We shared a work in progress bit of art. The final cover is even more amazing than that, and by artist Lucy Shearer. And the designer and graphic designer is Matt Benici over here. Matt, I want to give you a couple minutes. Tell us a little bit about 0 Day War and kind of what people can expect when that goes live.
0 Day War is a hacking board game that takes place roughly 300 years in the future. A massive coronal discharge happens and causes, for probably a couple microseconds, a break in the sysnet, like our system's internet at the time, and everyone just jumps on it to try and get as many secrets and files and whatever they possibly can just scavenge from the security breach before the security protocols engage and lock everything back down. Each player is either an agent or an individual hacker from throughout the system. At this time, we have colonized Earth. Well, we started Earth, colonized Luna, the skies of Venus, Mars, Titan, and Ganymede, but we really don't talk much about Ganymede. And you'll get cards that you can use your exploits, which are your viruses and your other skills, to steal cards, which are files from the sysnet, while other players do the same. And everyone is sitting at one of the four corners of the game. And that's how you enter your files into the system. It's about 35 minutes long. I think it's pretty fun. There's a lot of levels of thought because there's not just the cards that you're getting, but each card that you get allows you to do something else on the board. And the board has no boundaries. So it starts in a 3x3 grid of 9 cards, but you can play left, right, up, and down based on which edge you're from. So there's no defined edge to the game itself. Yeah, Lucy's doing some amazing artwork. I've done all the design work and all the back end work. We've play tested this roughly 300 to 400 times in the 5 years before the pandemic. And I'm really grateful to be able to bring this out to everyone.
Yeah, we're really excited to be a part of that production. And when Matt had sent us a copy of that game, and we were able to play test it, and we were like, oh man, this is cool. We had some questions, we went back and forth, and we were like, okay, here are some of the things that we would do if we were going to make that game, and we did it collaboratively with Matthias. And it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be gorgeous. Lucy Shearer, we met her at Origins Game Fair last year, and she's a muralist, and she does a lot of just gorgeous art. You can check out her Instagram or her website, and she's just phenomenal. So yeah, we're super pleased to be able to take that artist and this designer and smash them together to make this produce this cool game. So be on the lookout for that later this year. Our next card game is it's called sorry, it's called Herd. It's called Herd. And Herd is a dinosaur card game where you each play a herd, protecting your number, and you survive a certain number of turns before an extinction event. It's going to be really cool. The art is phenomenal. It's done by Bonpland Art, and it's done in collaboration with Fossil Punk Foundry, who Sam Knowlton is the designer. Sam unfortunately could not join us today. And then we have an RPG that's coming out, our sneak peek number 3. It's going to be another +1 game. and it's going to be worked on by Doug Lewandowski from Kids on Bikes, from Home, the Haunted House RPG card game that we were developing and publishing. And Sen-Fung Lim, who did Zhongsha Blood in the Banquet Hall along with Banana Chan. And Sen has done a whole slew of other RPGs and board games. You can look him up on Board Game Geek. His resume would be here the rest of the day. But also, this will include art by Stephen Wu here. And the name of the game is Fast Cars and Family, which is going to be really exciting. The cover art was previewed in sneak peek number 3, and that was done by artist Stephen Cummings, who did a book for Image called Wayward. He's done a ton of stuff for Marvel, did Champions, has done some of the Star Wars comic books. A way to kind of stretch his mind a little bit. He wanted to do and cleanse his palate. He wanted to do some game art and was able to do that cover. Stephen, I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the stuff you're excited about with Fast Cars and Family.
Yeah, so turns out there's a lot of really smart design that goes into cars. And I've been sort of buckling down. I go to this cafe usually to write or draw. And usually it's pencil, ink drawing, swords and robots and stuff like that. So after we started talking about this, I just sat down with my sketchbook at this cafe and I, looking at passing cars. It's near Wall Street, so we get some nice vehicles as well going through that I wouldn't see every day. I think the other day some guy had like a white Ferrari that was polished. And New York City streets are pretty dirty, but the guy kept his white Ferrari clean. It was just parked off in an alley. So it was really fun. Yeah, I'm super excited about this, especially because something like this, cars are characters. So it's a lot about trying to imagine what sort of person drives what sort of car. And you can also play off of that, right? You can have this sort of military Hummer and this, tiny Japanese girl drive it. And you could, have this all sorts of subverting of people's expectations of who drives what. But yeah, it's been really exciting. Cars are also hard. I think in general, the sort of machined industrial things are just harder to draw because they're so carefully planned and there's so much thought that goes into it. Mm-hmm. I'm also hoping to my style generally is very fast and very energetic. So yeah. I'm hoping to communicate the characters of these cars without each being sort of like a really carefully planned sort of conceptual design of the vehicle.
Right, not like a focus piece in like Car and Driver, but like but like an actually in motion shot, or when I remember when we started talking about this, I had sent some concept art and was like, hey, can you I don't know if you're comfortable diving in with a different style or what you want to try, but like, could you draw something like this? And your response, I still crack up about this. You were like, I mean, I can draw anything. I just need time to learn it. You were like, I can draw anything. I was like, yes.
I don't quite remember saying that, but I think I was more, along the lines of if I studied, probably.
Exactly. Like if I learn it, like I could, yeah.
I can draw it. Doesn't mean it'll be good, but I can draw
it. Be prepared for the classic kids thing with like just 2 wheels and everything.
That's right. It's just a box with wheels.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's a really cool idea. And luckily, the franchise Fast and Furious has turned cars into essentially superheroes at this point. Yeah. So it's fun to conceptualize these cars as having their own superpowers. Regardless of what mechanics and engineering would tell us. So
yeah. And so we're excited about that one. That one will be funding and being more fully developed later this year, and the funding probably early next year. We hope to have that in people's hands by convention season next year. And it's gonna be a lot of fun to see how that one develops. We're actually meeting with the designers tomorrow. And then our next RPG project after this was in our update that was shared, I think at like 8 o'clock this morning. And it was actually pretty funny because I shared it, and independently I had two writers reach out to me and say, I want to work on that. And it's called Garbage and Glory. Garbage and Glory, I'm going to let Matt speak a little bit about this, but it was one of those situations where Matt and I at conventions always go and we look at the artist alley. We go and we look at different artists, and we found this one artist, Sam Breek, and we looked at his stuff, and I was like, I had seen it earlier, and I was like, Matt, I want to show you this guy's stuff. And we went and looked at it, and I was like, and we're like, we love your style, we love your stuff, but we don't have a game where this would fit. We don't have a game for you. And then as we were leaving, I turned to the left, and there was like a sticker sheet of raccoons all wearing like junk to look like D&D characters. And Matt goes, that's the game. And so I'm going to hand it over to Matt to kind of talk a little bit more about Garbage and Glory and what that's going to entail and what you can expect.
Yeah, Garbage and Glory, as Brandon said, it's going to be raccoons doing not raccoon things, but like D&D type things, heroic adventures. And it's sort of like, I mean, I don't know, to get too, I shouldn't get too philosophical in the pitch for it, but like the idea is that like these are just raccoons scrubbling around in human trash piles, but to them, they are going on epic adventures. They're casting spells. They're coating themselves in like, you make your scale mail out of a bunch of like credit cards, right? And you have your light bulb on a stick that's got the wires pointing out that are shooting sparks out, and that's like that's your wizard staff that you're using. And they're making their kit, and they're going on these explorations with junk, and there's because that's what the art showed. And so like this is kind of how Brandon and I really like to work, where we're like, this art is already flawless. All we have to do is put rules that make this into a game. And so Sam's his set of D&D heroes that, except they're raccoons full of junk, are using junk, it was one of those situations where it's like, that's perfect, just put stats to it, it's done. And obviously it's been more than that, and we've been working at it, and we've got kind of like, they're not two halves of the game, but like there's two parts of the game. It's going to be +1, so it's going to be similar to that. In level of complexity, we're going to shoot for something maybe as close to Never Going Home as we have yet done. Like we've done Psychic Kids is a little bit easier, Doggos is a lot easier, Tenebria is about as same as Never Going Home, but it's kind of in a different direction, and it's been a while since that one came out. So Garbage and Glory is going to be not as complex as Never Going Home, but it'll be similar in that level of complexity, and it'll probably have more skills, maybe more like right now it has 12 skills instead of the 10 that Never Going Home has. We've got the classes, right? We've got the sneaky guy, we got the big strong guy, we've got the wizardy character, you've got the those different classic sort of characters you would expect from something that is sort of like playing with the idea of a dungeon crawl. And so that's what we have. And so something that we haven't done before.
Dumpster dives.
Exactly. You're dumpster diving, and your dumpster delving, I think maybe is what we call
Dumpster delving.
it. If we didn't, we should change it to that, because that's better than dumpster diving or dumpster delving. I'm gonna write that down too on my sheet here. We've
Every
got
time I look at the art, I keep thinking that they're the dollar store version of the Rats of Nim.
The dollar store version of
I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Mm.
That's a good way to think of it. And the art is really fun. It's very colorful art, so feel similar to Doggos. This is not meant to be, we've kind of split ourselves off into two halves here. We've got our fun, colorful games like Fast Cars and Family, Heck and Good Doggos. Garbage and Glory will join that line, as opposed to Home, which is a creepy haunted house game, and Never Going Home, which is the war game, and Jiangshi is another horror setting where you're losing your family, resources are going down every day and stuff like that. So like this one is on the fun side, and the art is super colorful. Sam's art is amazing. People that have been working on it are sort of regular crew for us. We got Corey Capps, Michelle Lee, and Dieter Zimmerman.
Dieter Zimmerman.
And they each are, and I'm working on it too. We're taking each different parts of it. And yeah, so the garbage, I guess I haven't talked about what we want to do with the cards. So we want to talk about that, or have I taken up so I'll quickly talk about like something we're doing with the cards. So as you watching the stream probably have heard, with all of our +1 games, the dice mechanics are always the same. The card mechanic is always different. So the card mechanic that is different for Garbage and Glory is that when you get those reward cards, that's the trash that you've recovered. Now you build your sets, and that's your kit. So like to build a new wizard staff or a better wizard staff, you might have to have something long, something shiny, something or something hard, something shiny, something. Again, we haven't refined perfectly what the 4 suit names will be, but you need certain numbers of cards from each of the suits in order to make this new item. And then that's sort of like kind of standing in for leveling up, because +1 doesn't really have leveling up in the way that you might expect, but you'll get your better weapons and better equipment and better armor over time, because you'll be collecting the trash and turning in those sets of cards to get better equipment. So that's the garbage side of it. And then we've got this whole mechanic that we're working on that's not quite finished yet, but it's the glory side of it, which is about sort of like I kind of think it'll take a page from the energy points that we used in the implemented for the Psychic Kids game, where that's sort of your +1 effects, right? So like you'll earn glory from doing things, but then you can spend the glory to do other things in the game. And we also are trying to inject a lot of fun. Some of the things that we know you can spend glory on or earn glory, and you can kind of like, we kind of want to play in with like naming conventions. So like you defeat a big bad, and then you'll get like a new name, right? A new title that'll go with that, right? So now you're not just, you're
Little King Trashmouth, Slayer of the Goose Dragon.
Exactly. And the more titles you acquire, then like that's sort of like again another kind of way to level up your character, because you've got more and more titles, and you can really, and in social situations you go, I got 7 titles, I'm going to say them all right now, so yeah, we've got, the art is almost all finished. Sam's been working on it basically all year. The text is got a lot of good parts to it. It's got a lot of parts that are still a little rough. We're still working on it. And certainly once Never Going Home is done, that'll be the new thing that we'll be working on over here at HQ, Wedding HQ, to get it finalized to the point that it's ready to bring out. But I've said a whole bunch of it.
I was just gonna say we will have a sign up link for the notification going up,
right.
Sometime soon. It'll go out in both in our mailing list that we have for Wedding Games, as well as I'll drop it in the our wrap up or whatever here. But we'll also be if you see us at any conventions, we're going to have a sign up QR code at the convention. So, hey, if you're interested in Garbage and Glory, boom, you'll get notified once it goes live. So if you do see some of us there, just look for the sign with awesome raccoon art. Midnight Blue says, I want to be a trash panda. It's funny you say that. I've seen that kind of that kind of terminology, to trash panda, or we thought about potentially doing t-shirts or something for each one of those classes and being like,
Oh yeah.
oh, I want to be let's just say I'm a garbage barbarian and have like the barbarian here, or like I'm a garbage wizard, it's kind of a little bit of self-deprecating humor, but also, right on hitting the nail on the head when it comes to a game, where you use garbage as your for your stuff. Also, some of you may have seen this. This is Never Going Home t-shirt that we'll have just a few extra of these at conventions this year. And we will, but some of our booth staff will be wearing these. If there is a desire for them, and I'll share this in our chat. If there is a desire for them, we can do an order and get a group order and get some stuff sent out if that's ever a desire. We did it at one point with our Into the Weird and Wild shirts from our Into the Weird and Wild campaign. We actually had set up a way to go on and get those ordered and immediately just mailed to people, and we had a lot of people who were really pleased with how that turned out. So yeah, I got this in the mail today and was very excited to just put on the shirt. I was telling Matthias earlier, I'm wearing the shirt of the band I'm going to see.
Yeah,
So
we'll probably talk about. I assume we'll talk about Origins after we get to the end here. We're not going to get out of this call without talking about Origins, considering it's a couple weeks away, right?
No.
Great.
Did you want to talk about Origins?
No, I think we should wait until after we get to the funding.
Okay. I was about to say, I was like, yeah, we can.
No, we can find something else to talk about. Let me go around to the social. Yeah. So one question that I got, I've been watching some of these other chat threads. It is Atwas, who we've talked about already, but Atwas wants to know what's next. And I think we've kind of hinted at it already, but I mean, and I assume that's like narrowed down to like For Never Going Home. I mean, obviously, first off, we're going to finish the books, get those out to the printer. We don't expect any printing delays, so it'll just be as soon as the staff can finish them, they can get laid out, and then we can go to they can go to the printer, and then they'll be sent to backers. I mean, you never want to say stuff without it, because maybe it's not true, but I can't imagine this is not going to happen before the end of the year. That's certainly the intention. And then once
to get these, we should
to get the dossiers done. The dossiers should be in people's hands well before the end of the year,
absolutely.
like months from now. Not like 18 months, like 3 or 4 months mostly.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, and then we'll be working on getting the stretch goals done. I told the writers that I don't want to see their first drafts until after August, after I've got the majority of the summer's conventions under my belt. So that's when we'll start working through the stretch goals, getting those adventures put together, and the ones that we'll probably do. Brandon and I have talked about this, and it's not like it's a secret or anything like that. We'll probably put together like some sort of thematic packets. So like 2 adventures and then a Mystic Secrets that relate to that kind of, and then this is like your this is your France pack, right? Because all of these things relate to France. And then like we're going to put this together and this together, and that's your aviation pack, because all of these, because somebody wrote about a haunted blimp, and then somebody else did a mission involving the what if the Red Baron was a wizard, and so that's the aviation pack, right? And we will collect them together as once we know all the ones that are getting created, and then those will come out digitally when they come out. And then after that, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a big question mark of like, sure, what I know that we did the same thing with Heck of Good Doggos, we kind of took everything that was kind of unlocked there. Then they were digital stretch goals, so everyone got the digital goals, and then we said, sure, we printed that as Fetch Quests was the name of that expansion. Whether or not we do that, it is a financial investment to take something that's digital and then go on and print it in mass, so we can either distribute it or offer it to people to pick up at conventions or whatever. But that has not been discussed. It's been a big
I wasn't
question.
even talking about that. I was talking about like, in my mind, I think this is again, like, you're hearing it not firsthand, but like pretty fresh off the cow.
Fresh
if-
off the
if-
cow.
fresh out of the cow, right?
Oh, out of the cow.
this-
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean straight out the chicken?
The idea of this like packets of related material, if it proves to be a successful and viable way to distribute more content, I don't see why we can't just continue to make that content indefinitely, right? Like there'll be 3 times a year, twice a year, 4 times a year. I don't know, however fast the people can consume them, and however fast we want, however much time we need to spend on that to make it happen. Every 6 months there's another pack of 3 or 4 adventures for Never Going Home, and we can keep doing that for a long time. And because certainly the pool of people that we have, Mike's on the call, Steven's on the call, Sarah's on the call, Brandon and I are on the call. Like there's 5 of us right here. Could write an adventure and turn it in tomorrow. That's it's not hard to keep doing the content, right? So we will, I think, as long as it makes sense to do so. So for Never Going Home.
Yeah.
So that's what's next.
Yeah. We're Never Going Home has like we've said, there's always something to write about, and just when you think you've learned the craziest thing you can think about the conflict, you turn the page and
that happened to me.
It's even worse.
That happened to me today. I was trying to find a quote from a 19th century person that had anything to do with the Balkans, and I was like, did Marie Curie have anything to say about the Balkans? And like maybe not, but she definitely was in the Great War inventing ambulance X-ray machines that she carried around to get people to like, and Mike here was like, oh yeah, that's old news to me. And I'm like, but no, it's a today I learned. Like for me, I'm like, I had no idea that that's like something she did in the war. That's amazing. Like, where's the Never Going Home story about her haunted ambulance full of X-rays that she's like ready to like do something with, there's always a new thing. Like,
oh, FYI, Midnight Blue actually put a character in the chat of or in the comments of the campaign earlier, and it was a great little write-up, and it was like, this is the kind of stuff I love to see, that engagement from the community, and it's fun stuff. 5 minutes to go, by the way. 5 minutes to go.
5 minutes. We got like,
All right, I have an odd question about the game.
yeah.
Have you guys used any newly public domain characters in the game?
Do we use any of the newly like putting Winnie the Pooh and
No, think people like
It's just
Alan Quartermain and things like what the hell, the Man of Bronze.
Doc Savage.
He just became public domain, and they would have definitely been in World War One.
Oh. So
Alan was probably drunk, but
it's not anything against those IPs or anything of that sort, or public domain sources now, but one of the things that we talk about, like even Never Going Home, we have the others. We've always said, this is a game of Eldritch Horror in the trenches of World War One, and people are like, oh, like Cthulhu, and we're like, I mean, if that's how you want to play it, but the others are nameless and unknown. And it distinguishes us from the Cthulhu mythos because the Cthulhu mythos has a lot of baggage in and of itself. There's a lot of stuff there. Doc Savage, Quartermain, also they come with everything that has come before. So someone says, yeah, I'm gonna put Doc Savage in my game, or I'm gonna put Alan Quartermain into my game. Fine, absolutely, run with it. And if you want to, stat them out, put them on in the Discord or online, I have no problem with that. However, will they ever show up in one of our works? From my perspective, probably not.
Yeah, it is like, especially those two, like the pulp. Pulp is something we just touched on a little bit, and actually Mike is the one who did it because I keep mentioning you, Mike, because you're here. But Mike got into a little bit of a pulpy adventure in his contribution, Aces of the Exosphere, which will be
you're running. Aren't you running that at Origins, Mike?
I think I'm running it at Gen Con.
Maybe
I am running at Origins. Yeah. I'll have to check my schedule. I'm definitely running at Gen Con.
Yeah.
I'm running some at Origins too, but yeah.
With the what I was going to say by bringing that up is like, that's sort of like the challenge, like the pulp feel is such a different feel from the other stuff that we've done with Never Going Home. Doc Savage, it's like the wrong thing, right? Like Quartermain is earlier, right? I mean, Quartermain's heyday is more like Boer War and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, Alan was still alive. Oh, I'm still muted.
No, you weren't. You muted, and now you muted yourself.
Damn it. Yeah, Alan was alive in 1901.
Right.
Still. And I think he was 45 at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, he'd be an old man. He could do something, but like, it's his. I don't know.
His heyday was earlier than that. Yeah.
Right. His heyday was certainly earlier. I don't know. I mean, I echo what Brandon said about like kind of wanting to keep those
we are in
worlds separate,
seconds.
but
I am sort of feeling like a really like evil, gigantic Winnie the Pooh type character though, and Never Going Home. So that might be kind of.
I'm not opposed to it. Have you?
It can be one of the weird monsters that comes out of the mist.
Have you read? Well, there might.
I am like.
You should read the 1918 book, Sarah. Well, it's not very Winnie the Pooh like, but it's it's not a million miles away from what you're talking about.
All right. Well, spoilers, right?
That's no. I mean.
All right.
One thing I would say. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to say we have 60 seconds.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is kind of sets Never Going Home apart from the Cthulhu mythos is I always thought that the others were closer more to like the Cenobites and the Hellraiser verse, that they were very interested in humanity, interested in the suffering, where like most of the Cthulhu mythos don't care one way or the other. We're just sort of there and in their way at best, where I think that the others definitely have a more vested interest in humanity. So I think, there's a definite departure from the Cthulhu mythos there in the game.
Yeah. It is sort of the interest in corrupting humanity is sort of part of Never Going Home.
So
I'll say one thing here in a second, but we can do our
lag
countdown.
I'm going to count for a lag between here and our YouTube. We have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fireworks. We had 781 backers, too shy of the Never Going Home original Kickstarter. We ended at, where'd it go? 65,811, I think. Was the total.
That's what it says.
Now, I know it's the very first question will be Because this usually happens. The very first question is going to be, hey, if we raise enough in backer kit, is there potential to unlock future the stretch goal? That is something we'll have to talk about, but again, we'll move forward with that. We were $800 off, and raising an additional $800 in the backer kit may not be an issue. But I want to make sure that we at least address that question before it happens. The answer is question mark. We don't know. We'll see what we get.
We never like to say no
Okay.
about
We-
these kind of things.
Right. Well, I mean, it's one of those things that we've already kicked around. We've thought about it. But again, we'll see when we see there. Matt, I interrupted you right before we funded, but I want to say big thank you to everyone who backed and supported us. We real quick, we have
Literally can't do it without you.
Midnight Blue said, great campaign, congratulations.
So thank you.
We
you,
literally
Midnight.
can't do it without you. Zeb gave us some confetti. Yeah, we're gonna
Awesome.
keep going. Matt, I'm gonna let you continue.
Oh, the thing that I remember saying to somebody who was into the Cthulhu thing, like plays Call of Cthulhu, it's his favorite game. This Jonathan Meadows, who contributed to, I think, was in the original set, but then also contributed to the 1915 book. He was asking
Yep.
me how Cthulhu is it, and the thing that I said to him, if you're a fan of the Lovecraft stories, it's more the strange case of Charles Dexter Ward than it is like Dreams in the Witch House. So if that's what I have said, and I'm sticking by that. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. But if you do know what that means, there you go. So that was my only thing that I had to say.
Great. We mentioned Origins about
Right.
20
This
minutes
is my
ago.
Pierogi Mountain shirt. Pierogi Mountain is in Columbus, so I'm ready to come back and get some of your pierogies.
Pierogi Mountain. It's so good. It's so good. But yes, we will be at Origins Game Fair in Columbus. We're also going
weeks.
to be at Gen Con up in Indianapolis later this year, and we will be at Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin, and we will be at PAX Unplugged. Hope if they confirm our application, which knock on wood they will.
And Fanboy Expo in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes, Fanboy Expo in Knoxville, Tennessee. But Origins is the one that's coming up in like 2 weeks. We will be there. We'll have our friend Bethany, who was there last year. We have a number of other friends and people who are running games through the Lurking Fears Game Club, and they'll all be generally be in the Lurking Fears room. I think they are all in the Lurking Fears game room this year. But we'll be there with the products that we have. We'll have our Never Going Home, we'll have Zhongshe, we'll have Into the Weird and Wild, Into the Sesame Citadel, and I know that we had heckin' good doggos at PAX Unplugged last year, but we had a limited stock. But we will have both heckin' good doggos as well as heckin' good doggos fetch quests at as well as our various accessories and things for our +1 games. Matt, what else do you want to hit about Origins?
Well, first I got a question here just came in on the Discord.
Okay.
We congratulations on the campaign. Now that we've met with surprising success, and what do you think of your situation now for Never Going Home and future campaigns as a studio? So I'm not sure exactly what the nature of the expected response is. Are we a studio? I mean, I guess we're a publishing house.
Yeah.
I think we've already talked about some of the stuff that we have planned out.
Yeah.
Pretty detail. You know, we've got another. I mean, we've got our next 18. We know what our next 18 months at least is, as far as like projects we want to get done, and there's beyond that. There are a number of other projects people we're talking to. You know, that might turn into projects. We've got some. There's manuscripts on my desk that I've been reading through, and I need to keep reading through them. We've got partnerships lined up for that. So, I mean, I think the future is to just keep doing what's been successful for us, like making visually appealing products that that are fun to play, and you know, that I think we'll just keep doing that. And with board games and card games adding to our repertoire, we're gonna keep hopefully keep going forward, keep doing more stuff, and
That's right.
just keep
So-
going from success to success. Keep working with great designers, like that's the great artists. That's what we're looking forward to, is all the people that we can work with, because the more our sort of stock increases, the more that we can be like the higher up we can talk to. There's some of the people that are the stretch goal writers this time that I'm like, you know, I didn't have their numbers before, but like now I have their numbers, right? So like there are people that we are talking to and getting to work with because we keep moving forward with this company, and the reputation and the success. We keep making things that people want to buy. As you know, 781 people want to get this game. They believe in us,
and people
we-
want to work with us. Like that I think is good too. When we've actually approached people before and they say, oh, this is actually I'm really glad I've been wanting to work with you all for a while. And I love that. Like we were talking with Garbage and Glory, and we had the two people reach out today. They were like, I want to work on this game in whatever capacity I can. That's awesome. I will say that like you know, just with some of our upcoming releases, I mean, it's not just we have the stuff that we want to work on for the next 18 months, but even our just release schedule, like with the stuff that's going to print, like Psychic Kids is already at the printer. You can get it digitally already, but like the dice and the cards they're working up proofs at the factory right now. Same thing with the dice and the cards that here for Never Going Home. They're going through that same factory and going through that same process. Home, the haunted house map making card game, I mean, that's in proofing right now. Matthias has gotten the all that stuff. We're going through reviewing the elements of that. He showed us the box design earlier, and it's really cool. He had some really fun suggestions for how to use like some of the UV spot coating on the box, which is, you know, if you've seen some of our stuff like Zhang Shubla in the banquet hall, it has gold foil and spot coating. And Matthias did some like little things on that box where it's like, yes, there is a little speck of gold in the eye of the dragon, which is like amazing. It's a little detail, which is great. And so being able to see some of that coming to fruition in that is going to be fun. But so some of that stuff will be either at Gen Con or PAX this year, knock on wood, and shipping schedules, and you know, hope there's, you know, not another boat in the Suez Canal. And that was a nightmare with Jean Chud, but things have pretty much normalized or getting closer to normalization. So it's a lot of work, but some of these things which backers have seen based, you know, and digital format or seen in updates, it's going to be great to finally get those in people's hands and see if the design decisions that were made, both graphically, product wise, and game wise, play out the way we hope and expect.
We better win some design awards for either Home or Psychic Kids, because those two look amazing.
Man, the amount of work that was put into Psychic Kids is just amazing. It's a lot of fun.
Well,
And Home, I think, is gonna be Home. I think is gonna like surprise a lot of people.
I mean, we'll
Yeah.
we'll put them up for awards, but they're like they're coming out this year, and so that'll be next year's awards. It'll
Yep.
we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
We were talking about Origin. I don't think I have anything shocking to say about Origins other than I was talking to my partner earlier today about like last year I recorded all these videos with various our industry peers, and all that content is on the IGDN YouTube channel, all the interviews I did at Gen Con and at Origins last year. And this year I'm not in that same capacity there with them. I'm focused only on my own stuff. And so I'm like, I'm gonna record a bunch of videos at Origins again this year. Like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I've been head in the borehole here trying to make the words happen. But Origins is about to happen. So
It's about to happen. Next
um,
Tuesday, Matt and I are packing boxes.
it's wild.
So Steven, I want to ask real quick. I know we've talked about it before. For those of you who don't know, Steven used to live a stone's throw away from Matt and I, and now lives a stone's throw away from Matthias. Up in the Northeast. And we recently, we get to see Matthias when we go to PAX and stuff. And this year I invited Steven if he wanted to come to PAX, and has an opportunity there. Steven, you have a badge, you will have a badge if you want to come and hang out with us that weekend and give high fives to people.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good.
Always welcome.
I'm trading in a lot of parental goodwill, so should be good.
Yeah. Me too, considering it's over Sarah's birthday weekend. So
Wow.
it's a
Yeah. I told
problem.
him, it's a big problem. I said, never again. You get other people to go. This is 2 years in a row you've missed my birthday because you've been in like 5 states away. So yeah. I mean, I know you're trying to make money and everything, but other people will go for you. You have to stay in Louisville.
That's right.
Only 3 states away.
Oh, that is not a fight I'm having.
The
Yeah, but-
technicality.
But I'm the brother. I can be pedantic on this issue.
That's
You
right.
True.
That's right.
can be
Right,
quiet,
that's right.
Brandon, on this issue.
That's right. You should listen to Matt.
However, it still doesn't mean I'm not going to throw a gigantic I'm sorry / happy birthday party for Sarah either before or after PAX. So that is still going to happen.
Get a nice present.
That's right. That's right.
I missed my birthday 2 years in a row, all in 21 and 22 at different cons, but I'm not scheduled to go do a con that weekend this year. So I am looking forward to not being at a con on my birthday. Not that
Yeah.
it's
Well, he
not that it's-
originally was like, you should just go with us. And I was like, no. I'm gonna be working on my birthday. Are you kidding me? Plus,
So-
I have to sing a Christmas concert on my birthday anyway, so that it's not gonna work out. So,
it's not gonna work out.
So
Christmas
one of my
concert.
favorite convention stories ever.
We know where
was
we fall here, guys. Christmas concert, wedding games.
One of my favorite convention stories ever was last year at Origins.
Oh,
Charles
yeah, this
Ferguson
is great.
Avery of our of Never Going Home was with us at the booth, and it happened to fall on his birthday weekend. So Saturday was his birthday. He went out and had a great time, and it was great. We saw him Sunday morning, and he just kind of has his coffee, stumbles into the booth, and is like, "Man, I'm tired. I didn't really get a lot of sleep last night." And I was like, "Why?" And Alex, his business partner, said, "Oh, well, yeah, yesterday was his birthday." And just because I'm such a loud jerk face, I was just like, "Happy birthday, Charlie!" And the entire convention hall, like all of the vendors,
This was like in the pre-show. This
yeah,
like
this is a
before it
pre-show
opened.
setup, started yelling "Happy birthday, Charlie." It just was like a cascade
Yeah, it was
all
it
the
was
way across the hall. Every
the
vendor
echoing outwards.
saying, and and people were coming up like later in the booth, they're like, "Hey, who's Charlie? You Charlie?" You know, and it was like, "Hey, happy birthday, man!" It was anyway, a lot of fun. Best convention story. I love it. It is not fallen. His birthday does not fall on the convention this year, but anyway. Well, I want to say thank you. I'm going to give everyone here on the call another last opportunity to say their thanks or congratulations or whatever final words they have.
Everyone praise us one more time.
Congratulate somebody else. I'm going to go Matthias first.
Thanks everyone for backing it. I look forward to working on it.
Thumbs up.
Give your if people can find you on the internet, because you do stuff
Yeah.
on the internet. If you want to do that, promote yourself.
Sure. You can find me on God, I'm so tired. Twitter under M Benici Graphic. You can find me on, like, if you put my name anywhere online, I'm easy to find either my resume or where I'm at digitally. So
There you go.
I'm not hiding.
Okay, Steven.
Yeah, just happy to be part of this project. Hope you all like the stories that we've crafted for you. We tried to give you a variety of experiences with all of these, and there's something for everyone. So proud of the work we've done.
And where can people find you, and what are some of the things that you're kind of working on?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple novels that are in the works that are with my agent right now. We're still working some of the stuff through. Publishing is glacial. It's so slow.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Fingers crossed. My art stuff is on Instagram at WortYurt, although I haven't been very good about updating it. Yeah, and then pretty soon everything that I do will be replaced by a bot. So come get it while it's good. Sorry
Sarah?
for ending on an unhappy note.
Well, I mean, we have made the commitment that we will not include AI generated art in our products. We like our artists. We love our artists. We want to support our artists. So,
Absolutely.
Sarah.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for supporting Never Going Home and wanting to read my weird fiction that I write. It feels really good.
Where can they find more of your weird fiction?
You can find more of my weird fiction on my blog, sarahoraiten.com. And I will be getting ready to put out another book soon. So if you've got any of my other works, there's a set of novellas that are going to be bound as one volume that are going to come out later this summer. So you can look for that on Kickstarter in the late summer, early fall.
And there's Emma. Okay,
And there's Emma. That's right. She needs to go to bed.
She does. Matt.
Yeah. Once again, thank you to 781 people who believed in this product and trust us to deliver more cool stuff. We are working to deliver you the cool stuff that you believe is coming to you. And I believe that this set of dossiers is at least as good as the previous set. I don't want to slam any of their work by saying this set is better, but it's at least as good. We are meeting the bar of the Never Going Home stuff. And just always I've been talking about on the stream, there's always little tweaks where it's ooh, we can make this better, and that kind of stuff can happen forever. So anyway, eventually we'll be done with it and we'll send it out to you, and hopefully it's good. Hopefully you like it. And but again, thank you for your support. We, as I said, literally cannot do this without the people that buy the books. So you buy the books. Thank you to you.
And again, it bears repeating. Thank you so much for your support. But I also want to say, if you are watching this, you have already found us on our YouTube channel and potentially through Kickstarter. But also, you can find us on Facebook, Wet Ink Games. You can find us on Twitter at Wet Ink Games. You can find us on Instagram at Wet Ink Games. We have a Discord, which
YouTube
is very
channel.
active. Our YouTube channel. We have so you can find us. And again, if you are a backer and a supporter, please come and introduce yourselves to us at any of the conventions if you were there. We'd love to shake your hand, give you a fist bump, a high five, whatever. But again, thank you for your support and thank you for joining us this evening. So I'd like to just say thanks and wrap up. All right.